The Karmic Ledger, the Blind Infant, and the Untamed Mind.
Hello everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive. Honestly, when I first read this ancient text, I was completely blown away through a suspenseful story spanning past and present lives. This text demonstrates exactly how causality works. To be frank, it reads like a highly precise systems manual, clearly outlining the absolute connection between action and consequence. Are you ready to unravel this mystery? Let's jump right in. According to this ancient record, our story takes place in the ancient city of Mutra. The protagonist is the son of a prominent, wealthy family. Their wealth was described as being equal to that of the heavenly king, Vesravanes. Essentially, they held immense power and lived an enviable, perfect life. But life is full of variables. Imagine the contrast. For 10 months, or 9, as the text specifies, this couple was filled with joyful anticipation. However, the moment the child was born, they plummeted from heaven to hell. Their long-awaited baby boy was born completely blind. The disappointment and shock were so severe that they reached a cruel conclusion. Rather than raising a defective child, they would rather give his food to the dogs. And so, in the twilight, these heartless parents abandoned their own flesh and blood on the cold streets. Normally, an infant left on the street wouldn't survive the night, right? But a miracle occurred. The text tells us that the Buddha observed all of this and intervened immediately. He secretly protected the infant, ensuring he didn't become a stray dog's dinner. The next morning, the Buddha arrived before the infant with his assembly of monks and a large, curious crowd. What followed was a scene straight out of a movie. The Buddha used his inconceivable power to enable the newborn to speak and instantly recover memories of his past life. Then, before everyone, the Buddha asked a question that silenced the crowd. Are you the ugly one? Imagine the onlookers there, jaws must have hit the floor. Why ask a blind, abandoned infant such a specific, suspenseful title? Then came the even more shocking part. The infant answered. He not only admitted to being the ugly one, but confirmed that his current suffering was due to his own past transgressions. He uttered a profound realization. I have come to this state, not because of bad company, but because my own mental continuum remained untamed. In other words, he didn't blame anyone else. He attributed everything to his own lack of internal emotional control and letting his negative impulses run wild. This point is worth pausing to consider. In this tradition, evil karma isn't about an angry God punishing you. It's more like a cold, objective ledger recording every act, driven primarily by that untamed mind. Even from a modern perspective, this resonates deeply, isn't this exactly what we call emotional intelligence and taking responsibility for one's actions? Part 1. The Crimes of a Cruel King. Memories of Mutra. Because the crowd was so perplexed, the Buddha revealed the secret of the child's past life. Through the Buddha's rewind, we see two extremes. On one side was the former king of Mutra, nicknamed the Ugly One. This king was notoriously ill-tempered and possessed a twisted, obsessive jealousy. He strictly forbade his consorts from ever showing their faces to others. On the other side was a Pratyeka Buddha, a solitary sage who had attained enlightenment quietly meditating in the local mountains. The contrast between extreme violence, control, and perfect tranquility was absolute. One day, the conflict erupted. The king was out walking with his consorts when they happened upon the majestic sage. Out of pure joy and respect, the consorts removed their veils to pay their respects. Because of this single act, the king's untamed jealousy exploded. In a fit of madness, he ordered his men to gouge out the eyes of the innocent sage. This was the opening of a massive karmic debt. To prevent the king from incurring even worse karma, the bleeding sage flew into the air, manifesting incredible supernatural powers. The king, looking up, was paralyzed with fear. Realizing the gravity of his crime, he fell to the ground in desperate repentance. Later, he built a memorial stupa for the sage and vowed to practice diligently for liberation. However, the ancient text tells us a harsh truth. Verbal apologies and vows cannot simply erase the karmic ledger. A debt must be paid. The king began a stairway to the abyss to settle his debt. He first fell into the most terrifying hells, then became a blind, hungry ghost, then a blind animal, and finally, he reincarnated as the blind infant we saw at the beginning. And pay attention to this staggering number, 500. The text is explicit. He didn't just spend one lifetime in those states. He endured 500 lifetimes each as a being in hell. A blind, hungry ghost, a blind animal, and a blind human. That is a total of 2. 0 cycles of rebirth, each accompanied by darkness and the agony of lost sight. This tells us that when the karmic ledger settles accounts, it is precise, down to the last penny. Part 2. The Final Settlement. Debt paid in full. after thousands of cycles of blindness and torment. What would become of this child? Would this astronomical karmic debt ever be cleared? The Buddha provided a prophecy. In the future, when another Buddha named Shanyi, good intention, appears, this child will finally have nearly settled his debt. At that time, he will be reborn as a healthy person with all 5 senses intact, join the monastic order, and eventually sever all afflictions to become an arhat. It sounds like a wonderful redemption story, the ultimate happy ending. But remember, the karmic ledger must be perfectly balanced. The text records a highly dramatic detail, just moments before he attains the final, eternal peace of parinirvana as an arhat. The very last remnant of that ancient debt will manifest. A flock of crows will fly down and peck out his eyes. Only after paying this final minute price will his suffering truly end forever. He does a chilling yet incredibly rigorous karmic loop. After hearing this uncompromising story of causality, the crowd was profoundly shaken. Each person's soul underwent a deep cleansing. The text notes their various levels of spiritual progress. Some established pure faith, others advanced to the stages of heat or patience, and some planted the seeds to become future great leaders, wheel-turning kings. Many even attained enlightenment on the spot. The blind infant, through his own painful experience, gave everyone the most powerful life lesson. This ancient text acts as a mirror held up to each of us. Think about it. If our every action is truly written into an inescapable karmic ledger, what kind of records is your untamed mind writing today? I hope today's analysis has given you some new perspectives and inspiration. I'll see you next time.